Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Now, today's video, we will continue on with the topic on global talent independent visa, which has been a highly sought information, and also visa as it's the most prioritized visa, whereby in average candidate or the applicant who actually met the criteria could actually get permanent residency within 3 months. That was pretty quick. But then, obviously, the criteria is quite high. Now, today's video, we're not going to talk about any target sector or any other criteria, but we actually wanted to take you into the actual request letter from immigration internally. Obviously, I've removed the identifier for the personal information privacy concern. But then let's have a look at the actual contents, and now go through each of the contents that require. So if you're interested lodging and become a GTI candidate or applicant, this is actually for you, because a lot of people just read through information on the website, on the immigration's web page. It's too brief. I mean, it doesn't go detailed enough. Then obviously you probably won't even know whether or not you can actually nail this visa application for sure. Of course, every applicant, if you want to spend the time and money, migrate, you want to be sure that whether or not the success rate is high or low, correct? And this is why a lot of people have subscribed to my channel for. Anyway, let's have a look. Okay, so as you can see, this is a request checklist and details issued by the Government of Australia from Department of Home Affairs. Usually all the visa applicant will get this, but the contents will be different. Obviously, if you're lodging for a student visa or a 482 work visa, obviously the request checklist will be different. So today we're talking about global talent independence. So what does the case officer look for? Let's have a look. So I've removed the identify for privacy concern, but obviously second page will usually name the primary applicant. So as you can see, the numbers of information here, I'm just go through each page first, and then I will come back with the detail. Okay, and the second page usually is the spouse, the required detail for spouse, and the relevant later on the page will be basically for the child or children. If you have 1 or 2, 3, 4, up to how many children that you have. Then the rest will be explanation in detail what those requirements is actually are. Now this is for English and all the other evidence of international recognition. It's basically connected to the video that we just made a couple of days ago, explaining what international recognition and also the nominator's profile and things. So, but this is not the law. This is actually the letter, the email that the applicant, the visa applicant, will actually get. So we are almost like, live for this. But again, I'll go through and explain all of them together. So let's move back to the second page. Now, this is for primary applicant, which means the actual GTI candidate. So before they could actually grant the visa to whoever the applicant is, they'll ask obviously a proof of functional English. Now, this is actually very advantage to a lot of GTI candidates, as it, very, very different to all the other general skill migration visa where people require to get proficient, even superior English. Now, probably you won't even notice what functional English is. Now, functional English, let's go down. They have explanation down here. Okay, this an international English language testing system, average band score of at least 4.5. Now that's extremely low. That's why it's called functional English. As long as you can, stay in Australia and functioning with the way of the level of the English, that basically meet the requirement. And obviously they'll talk about all the other type of stuff that you can actually type of English test systems that you can actually access with. And if you are a holder of United Kingdom, United States, Canada, New Zealand, Republic Island passport holders, you don't even need to have proof the functional English at all. And there's also additional, you need to show that you have at least 5 years of secondary education institution conducted in English. So if you have studied and you graduate with the high school certificate, the diploma, and you study 5 years, that's including so starting from year 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so in 5 years. Or perhaps you have actually done an award study overseas in was taught in English. For example, a lot of these clients may have a bachelor degree or master degree or even PhD done in USA or UK or even Australia. Then you're not required to go take the IELTS test at all. Now, obviously, there is a way not to even take a test, and that way is basically you pay the fees. So how much is the fee? Is roughly around $5,000 Australian dollars. It's expensive taking a test, a couple $100, or you pay $5,000. Obviously, after you pay that $5,000, you can access to the AMEP, the English program provided by the Australian government. But again, 5,000 English course, wow, it's a bit expensive. So I always encourage people to actually take the test, because look, it's only 4.5. I mean, that's primary level, so it should be okay. All right, let's scroll back. Let's look at the second one. So the second, third, and and a couple others are basically a proof of the candidate's international recognized achievement, also whether or not he's still prominent in the sector or industry that he or she's in, and also his to become an asset, obviously, with those kind of recognition and awards and portfolio. He or she will become an asset of Australian community and will be able to gain a future employment. Now, I'm not gonna talk about the health examination, because that's pretty straightforward. What is this? This is just basically they give you an ID reference number and you go for a medical checkups. So let's scroll back down and to check those details that a GTI case officer may request. So let me read them and then I will explain one by one for you. Okay, so the first of all is the evidence of international recognition and record achievement. This topic we have been talking about a lot and also explained by using the internal policy within the immigration system. But today, this is actually the request. And so what do they look for? Okay, so you need to provide evidence that you have international achievement throughout your career. Now, there are some examples they listed there. So let's have a look. So first of all, references by equally regarded peer in your field demonstrate your highly regarded international reputation. So what does that mean? So you need to get some reference from other people. May not be within your company or corporation. It may be a side, your supplier or your buyer, and their position is regarded as equally to you or even above, but you don't want to find someone who actually work for you to write the reference, because that won't be justifiable enough. Okay, second is the evidence of the books and your author of field expertise. Now, I haven't really seen anyone written any books, but I think the third one will make more sense, because all these GTI people, they maybe some people have enough time to write books, but most of them will have some publications. So this will be article, papers, reports you have published in highly regarded professional journals or magazines. Now, most of engineer or who has actually gained a PhD they will have some sort of thesis and publish some other publication or journals in whatever the field of scientific expertise that you're in. So this will be actually very, very helpful. But some probably won't. Now this is actually including what? Including media information. For example, you had led the company in achieving whatever the projects, and you had your name has been mentioned in whatever the project or in the media or news. So that would be also helpful as well. The other thing we always relate to will be some of these GTI candidate has been evidence for keynote addressing presented at international conference. So they might attend numbers of international conferences and providing as a keynote speaker, talking about what sort of high tech that you're in or what the future is going to be. So this can also be a proof of evidence of your international recognition. Now, going back up, there's evidence of high-level award. Now, these can be way to prove this. Can be numbers of trophies, gifts, award certificates, and things being given specially by anybody or not anybody, but any corporation or any institutional to actually simplify symbol as a symbol, and that's what I'm trying to say as one of your key achievement as well. Okay, now moving downwards, evidence of your participating group association. So a lot of these candidates may be in some sort of international committee, member of, for example, for semiconductor industry, a lot of people will actually be a member of a SEMI or IEEE for those electronic and electrical engineers professions, or also probably a member of some sort of, for example, Computex or the all those the retail computers or retail 3C shows or events going on in Germany or in Las Vegas, USA, for example. Those kind of international events that you have been participated in as a member. It doesn't have to be committee, but probably you are a member there as well. For example, like artificial intelligence, member of artificial intelligence of, I don't know, the US or whatever the state. That all that kind of stuff can actually evidence your international recognition of achievement. So, okay, moving down, what's evidence of you actively participating in government or private fund projects? So again, if the project is big enough. Now, not all sectors will actually get into this kind of stuff. For example, if you're a manufacturing, you probably won't get into government or private funded projects. This will probably more relates to medical professions, sorry, or the large infrastructure projects. For instance, that, for example, energies, resources and energies, those project will actually require they mandatory to actually connect it to government anyway. For example, energy and the resources really require governments participating in that. They probably won't help you, but they need to provide you, and some and most of the parts they'll actually provide grants, government grants there. And moving downwards, evidence that you have senior position in high competitive international organizations. So again, that basically shows where you're being employed with. So your employer, the corporation, can be a global large corporations, and your position with your business card. Sometimes a business card means a lot, and the title has been given to you, and what the government will require. We'll go down with those details down here to actually show you. Now, looking at all these kind of example, you see here, this actually says examples of type of evidence. Now, that's not all the list, but you see they're giving you a framework to actually get you to understand what sort of document they're after. Most of them, as you can see down here, these are all third-party references on documentations. It cannot be generated directly from you. It has to be provide a proof of evidence from a third party. For example, you need to go to your employer, say, look, can you please, give me a business, issue me a business card. Well, obviously they should already have it. So the business card is not printed by yourself. Well, unless you're the founder or business owner. But again, it's actually provided by the company. Okay, and the reference, third party again, books and author. Obviously, if it's been printed with your name on it as an author, obviously that's already approved there, and it's not printed by yourself. You printed by the actual press, right? And the paper article published in a journal, magazines, that's again a third-party database that you can actually search for. Awards are given by third party as well. Keynote speaker, you've been invited, so you have the invitation email or letter, and also photographs that you have actually participated in there. Evidence you participate association again. So as you can see, now you don't have to have all of this, but I would say at least you meet whatever you can have and provided you should have there. Okay, for example, some of the industry or sectors may not be able to provide evidence of book as you're an author. Some of the you don't really require to be in with a member of whatever the group. Okay, and some sector, for example, give me here, whatever say, or find fintech, right? Okay, fintech might not be participating in the government, or might not even be a participation in the private fund project as well. So it doesn't have to be all of them, but as long as you do have evidence of support in any of these items, you should really provide them. Okay, that's the way to deal with it. Now, if we're moving downwards, it says evidence that you prove you're still prominent. Now, look, all of this is actually in one go, but why do they repeating asking the same thing? It's basically they're looping around, confirming and confirming and confirming that you do really have that talent and meet the GTI criteria. So let's have evidence that you're still prominent. Well, obviously, if I provide my employment contract and business card, will obviously show that I'm still in that field of expertise. As you see that there. Now, but what they're trying to pick here is for someone who might already retired. They probably they can show a lot of this, right? But if they have retired for 2 or 3 or 5 years, they can still show all of this above because that was the past. But if they already retired, obviously you cannot show what you're currently been doing, where it's actually meeting the profession that you're actually in. So they're looking for something that record showing currently. Keywords here is currently employed. Okay, so you've been paid. Have you been paid? You do get pay slip last month. Okay, and any publication last 2 years. So if you do have any publication, usually how I demonstrate this is pretty easy. Just get the employment offer, get a certificate of employment, and provide numbers of your pay slip recently, or perhaps some tax document to show you have been paid, and obviously there's tax being paid as well. Now moving downwards, evidence of your asset of Australian. So they wanted to also attest that your talent is current and you have all these profiles and can actually be converted into some sort of IP assets for Australian community. So you need to provide evidence of a settlement will benefit Australian community. And how do you show this? Example of this evidence: you create product advancements that is unique, cutting edge in nature. Now, again, if we go back in proof of all these, probably you already proved that, because all of that profile referencing and publication will actually show that you have been in some sort of advancement with a unique cutting edge, whatever the technology that you are involved in. Okay, evidence of research still feels a significant knowledge gap will be benefit of industry. That's pretty straightforward. The way how you actually demonstrate this, it's quite easy. As long as you're still employed and in the meeting the GTI criteria, obviously you are at the forefront of whatever the technology that you're involved in, and that will ultimately show that it fills a significant knowledge gap that's required by the Australian community. Why? Because, well, traditionally Australia doesn't really manufacture anything. So that's exactly the people that the nation of Australia is actually looking forwards. Okay. Evidence we start involving startup. Now, if there's any, that would be great. And most of them, how I prove them is by track records of the technology advancement that they have been employed and developed over times, and that will show in a cutting edge sense, so we'll meet that requirement. Now, last but not least, the ability to obtain future employment. You have no difficulty. Obviously, if you're that good, I don't think you have any difficulty. So, example of type offer employment in Australia. Perhaps some of them has already been working in Australia. Business plan. Now, that doesn't have to be a comprehensive business plan. It can be pretty simple. Some of the tech probably Australia has never really got into it, so some basic business plan will actually meet the requirement. It can be done in a PowerPoint format. So and the third point, acceptance in research and startup program. So if there has been any research, now that doesn't have to be in Australia, as you can see. That's because there's a lot of international research in high-tech field nowadays. Okay, but obviously preferable in Australia. Evidence of qualification in area of achievements, or PhD or master. Okay, so most of them will already have that track record of previous employment in the area of achievement. So again, that's really just reconfirming you're an asset of the Australian community, and reconfirming that you are still prominent in the field of your expertise, and obviously reconfirming that it's an evidence of international recognition and records of achievement. So well, a lot of people may ask, well, but Carl, why would they I mean, the regulation is quite simple. There's only one or two sentences. Why would the case officer actually asking for all of this? Now, basically, it's a way, obviously, because Global Talent Visa is actually talking about people with technology or IP, intellectual property, that is so far ahead at the far front of the world. So a lot of these kind of innovations cannot really be, attested by a general skill assessing authority. You know what I mean? If you're just an accountant or a graduate IT, if you go through my skill, the general skill migration videos, you can actually just go to those skill assessing authority and get your skill assessed. Or if you're a cook or chef, you can actually get that skill assessed, because a lot of people can do it. All they need to do is check out whether you have made the standard of the requirement there. That's the standard one. But for global talent, the standard is not there. The standard is right up there, and a lot of they may not even be an expert in Australia to actually know what the standard or what you actually meet. So the way the case officer check is they reconfirming in every different angles, and that's why they see these objects, and they just reconfirm from that angle you see the same object, and from that angle they see the same object, from my angle same, and his angle same, and her angle, look at the checking out the object is exactly the same. That's why they want so many of these evidence of support. Anyway, that's for the video today, and that basically go through for the global talent visa applicant, how a case officer will actually send a request information. Now, if you can get all these documents prepared before lodgement, it's even better. You make the visa application much faster and easier. Anyway, should you have more question and query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. And I'll see you next video. Goodbye.